Hey everybody, it's time for a new episode of Ron on Gaming. Today's topic is the BetterPSN thing. This one submitted from Brother Dave 05 in those parentheses. Great video. I got a topic for Ron on Gaming. What do you think about PSN members wanting a better PSN? How do you think Sony will respond? And how do you think Sony will respond? Dave, I don't want to be that guy, but you're asking the same question twice, but don't worry, I'm going to answer you just once. Now we talked about this in the Ryan in Let's Talk PlayStation when this was a news story and it came up that people were sort of starting this campaign. Now, if you don't know, basically this thing started on Twitter. A whole sort of campaign called #BetterPSN started. There's even a website, betterpsn.com or something. Basically, PlayStation gamers campaigning hey, Sony, we want a better PlayStation Network. Now that PlayStation 4 is making a requirement to pay for online, even if you don't want PlayStation Plus, even if you don't want the fact that it's a reward service that offers you free games, you still have to get that service if you want to pay, if you want to play online games on PlayStation 4. We're paying for online now, and we're still kind of having the same sort of shitty service that we've been dealing with for many, many years. And there's always people that will come up and say, well, PSN's not that bad. I've always never had problems with it or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's just the principle of the things, right? Because it is a pretty arguably bad service for a lot of different reasons. One, there's lots of downtime. There's lots of maintenance. There's tons of features on PSN that we still don't have. Very simple things that was available on AIM Instant Messenger fucking how many years ago, being able to appear offline and invisible and things like that. It sucks. These are definitely features that we want, that we deserve, we should have. And so, how do I feel about that? How will Sony respond? I think they will respond. That's the thing that we talked about in the LTPS episode is Sony is the kind of company that has definitely demonstrated, at least with their PlayStation division, that they do listen, right? They definitely listen. I mean, they're the kind of company that really is into social media. All these Sony executives, higher ups, the Sony Worldwide Studios president is on Twitter. Everybody's on Twitter. They all talk in interviews. They all tweet to each other all the time. They even have this sort of industry harmony with, other executives from other companies, they tweet Spill Fencer all the time. The official PlayStation Twitter account tweets about Xbox and Nintendo, and there's this general industry harmony right now that's really, really great. But the point is that Sony is clearly involved in this sort of social media of people always talking about games, right? They're part of the conversation. That's what this always is. That's what YouTube is. IGN articles, GameSpot, Reddit, all that stuff. Sony is a part of the conversation basically. So they are clearly hearing everything, they're clearly understanding everything, and a few years ago, this is when Sony started PlayStationblog.share or PlayStation.share.blog or whatever the hell. It's where gamers can go and actually submit ideas for what they want on PlayStation, and Sony actually has put in some of those ideas into action. So clearly, they're clearly a company that listens. The number one issue I've always had with Sony, and it's a big problem, is that they take way too long to actually deliver these features, and it typically is features, firmware features, stuff like that. They take forever to do those things. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what their software engineers are up to, but they just take a very, very, very long time to actually deliver these features. And the problem, at least with PlayStation 3 at the time, was that they didn't build the system in that sort of manner, right? They didn't build it completely future-proof in that sense. I mean, one of the biggest problems, I believe, with in-game XMB at the time, when people were asking, we want to access the XMB while we're playing a video game. You couldn't do that on PS3 for the longest time. And they finally implemented that feature, but we never got cross-game chat on PlayStation 3, and this is apparently a hardware sort of situation that was not compatible. Software titles were having a big issue with this. A lot of different software titles basically weren't compatible with this, or they were causing games to crash and things like that, or causing the games to act in an abnormal way, and apparently certain publishers caught wind of this and they didn't want to let Sony implement this feature. In the case that, sometimes the games of these publishers might get all messed up, and then consumers are going to get angry and stuff like that. So Sony, at that time, didn't look in the future. They didn't look forward. And I think with PlayStation 4, they certainly have looked forward. I mean, they learned a lot from PlayStation 3 because they screwed up a lot with PlayStation 3. Now, luckily, they kind of brought that system back a little bit, gave us some great games, some great features, kind of won back sort of their, sort of caught the gamers love and attention again. People started buying PlayStation again, and they really future-proofed the PlayStation 4 in this respect with how easy it is to develop on. They've implemented a great ton of features on it already. It's just that their number one thing is they still take a pretty damn long time, and I don't know why. But I like the hashtag BetterPSN thing. I like it a lot, and this is something I've been telling people to do for a while now. You can go to a lot of old LTPSs, and you'll see me telling you guys, PSN sucks a lot. Like, PSN can really be shitty at times. Like, if you want a better PSN, you have to do something about it. You have to tell Sony, you have to tweet them, you have to harass them, email them. They do listen to that stuff, and when you get enough people to do that, you will start to see results eventually. So that's pretty much it. I mean, even Shuhei came out recently and said that the number one reason why they actually continued to do The Last Guardian was because people kept asking for it. They said that if people didn't ask for The Last Guardian, they probably would have canceled the game. And, you know, who knows how truthful that is, but I feel like that kind of is truthful because they probably invested a lot of money into it at this point. So yes, but hashtag BetterPSN, awesome idea. Will Sony respond? I think they will. I think they just will take their sweet ass time doing it. Now, you did say, how do I think they'll respond? And well, the thing is, like, Sony representatives have already responded to this, saying like, oh, you can submit your ideas to PlayStation Blog and whatnot. And there's no, like, I don't think this is one of those situations where Sony would like respond directly to it. Like, I don't think they'd come out and say, we've heard the campaign or what have you, or blah 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 blah. I don't think they'll like acknowledge it completely in that sense, but I just think that they will come out and say, here's some features you want, here's some features you want, here's some features you want. So, I hope they do it in a somewhat timely manner, which I don't see happening. Anyway, that concludes this topic of Ryan on Gaming. Thank you so much again, Brother Dave. You don't have to ask me twice. If you submit another topic, go right ahead. Just don't do it like twice, because I'm only going to answer you once. All right, Dave, I'm done picking on you. You know I love you. You know I'd give you a hug if I could. I can't right now, but if you want to do like a really sad, sappy thing where like you want to hug the camera, or well, I'm hugging a camera, but you would be hugging whatever you're watching this on. So if you're watching it on a computer, you hug your computer, or you know what? Let's just come on. Let's just. All right, that does it for this topic of Ryan on Gaming, and I will see you guys all in the next one.